everyone, welcome to episode 1 of MYG Legal's YouTube channel. Today we'll be talking about COVID-19 and its impact on Australian businesses. Today we have Henry from Bentley's Queensland, who will be able to provide accounting advice and information about various government grants that are available for small businesses during this period and how to utilise them effectively. So thank you, Henry, for coming
to
our YouTube channel. So COVID-19, Australia has been great in terms of providing great assistance, government measures, programs to assist businesses during this difficult period. Now, could you tell us about what kind of programs are available?
Okay. Well, Sharon, there's two levels of government support that are the major contributors towards business assistance.
Mm-hmm.
First one is federal level support. This comes predominantly in the forms of JobKeeper for assisting businesses keep staff employed and to assist businesses in terms of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, state level support. This comes in the forms of grants based on every state level. We'll use Queensland as a good basis. Grants such as COVID-19 adaptation grants, where governments are actually supporting businesses spending money, whether in the form of company maintenance, business maintenance, or who are keen to further expand through extra marketing, growth, or ideas that they have regarding COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So governments spending to that. And other grant options include interest-free loans, apprentice rebates, and other supports that are available. All of these, some of these are still available and are still taking applications in.
In regards to JobKeeper, I know I've got a lot of questions from clients, and I'm sure you got the same questions, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the eligibility. Do I need to apply for every single month? And sometimes they don't apply because they got a higher profit than last year.
Yep.
How does it work?
You will need to report every month to the ATO. So we have just gone through June, so you will need to report June data by within 14 days. Come July, August, you would also need to do the same. How much you have done sales-wise for the month and what you expect to do for the next month. That's in order to maintain JobKeeper. Now, common myth. Once I have recovered beyond the 30% drop, I am no longer eligible for JobKeeper. False. Whether you or not you have dropped, still have dropped 30% or more, or have recovered, or even have an upswing of 10, 20, 30%, you are still eligible under the original JobKeeper up till September.
What about for the extension that's just recently announced?
Well, for the new extension program is government will now drop from the original 1,500 to 1,200 for staff who work more than 20 hours a week, and for staff who work less than 20 hours a week, a bit less. But the eligibility has been cut. What I mean by that is they will assess June quarter and September quarter compared to the comparable period, usually last year's, to see whether or not you have actually dropped 30% or more compared to those periods. If you have, you are eligible. If you're not, unfortunately, you cannot continue on.
So I guess the big difference between the April to September period compared to the new extension period is that even though you get a profit in the pandemic period of April to September, you were able to still get JobKeeper even with the profit, but now in the extension period, you become ineligible.
Correct. In the current JobKeeper is when it was first assessed, late March, early April, people were able to use comparative periods and they were able to extrapolate.
Okay, no problems.
This one is based on raw mathematics. What have you dropped 30% or more compared from in the June and September quarter compared to your previous quarters? That is the sole test.
Okay.
There are alternative tests, but without boring anyone too much, there may be rooms to not negotiate, to review how this is calculated, but it is still a raw mathematical calculation.
The second thing is the small adaptation program. Now, that's been, for example, in Queensland, since we're using that as an example, there's been second round of small business adaptation program. The first time it went out within a week. The second round was all completed and filled out by the one day. And I know there's a lot of clients who missed out from my personal experience, but what about you?
From our client base, we actually knew well in advance that the grants are coming.
Mm-hmm.
We have actually communicated with all our clients who we think or know may be eligible to let them know that this is coming. For people who have missed out the first round, we encourage them to apply for the second round very quickly. We knew what records were required, we knew what documents from the first round that the Queensland Government is specifically looking for, or what key details they were really after. So after the first round, we knew straight away what information is required, and we actually, before 1 July, which is when the grant was open, all our clients who were applying had all the documents ready.
I think that's a very key, important factor that you just discussed there, which is when we have the information available. So what we'll do is we'll talk in 3 client case-based study. So client A is someone who keeps an immaculate record, has a great accountant and a lawyer who's very involved in their business. Let's say client B is someone who doesn't have a great record, possibly had a different accountant, recently came to, for example, let's say you or me, that will be the case. And client C will be someone where they manage their own BAS, they manage their own records, and the difficulties that comes and associated with that, as well as the advantages. So let's start with client A.
Okay, well, further to that example, I'll use the new JobKeeper as a good example. For client A, in such situations, it's now late July. Second round of JobKeeper only came out earlier during the week.
Mm-hmm.
For client A, where records are up to date and we have been constantly in discussions, talks with the client, by now we would know whether or not client A has a chance to apply for the upcoming new extended JobKeeper. For client B, it's a bit more difficult because one, the records that are used is technically not due till August for ATO reporting purposes. And so if the focus is mostly compliance, we would not know this information until late August for a situation such as client B. For client C, unfortunately in such situations, if a client only comes to us or only calls us when you say, Henry, Sharon, I have my annual checkup, or I need to do my annual tax returns, and they don't return calls, let's say, again, very rare, they don't return calls or don't want to talk to us because of fear of too expensive or whatever it may be. Such situations, even ignoring JobKeeper, it is very hard for us to identify whether or not they were eligible for the other grants.
Because like, for example, for client A, in terms of legal perspective for us, if you use JobKeeper, because of the information that you've accumulated, for example, if you have a proactive accountant, we were able to do lease reduction requests quite quickly and do a quick turnaround. So we were much more efficient, and we got in before the Tennessee Code came out, and we were able to get very favorable results for our clients. For client B, we had small difficulties when they don't have a very efficient accountant, so there's a bit of delay in getting the letters, even though we have all the records. Or sometimes there are clients where we don't have the lease agreement, so we have no idea how to discuss the lease reduction proposal and what options are available for us. In terms of client C, what we found is the validity of the information that they give to the landlord as well as the accountant, and there's a lot of questions around that. We found, for example, one particular client, because she maintained her own record, the landlords just didn't want to believe anything she said because they were like, oh, it's fabricated. And that's sort of the difficulty we have with client C's. Although they want to be tight budget and commercial viability for their business, that's the roadblocks that they normally go through in terms of dealing with, I guess, government grants as well as ATO or accountants.
Well, from my perspective, in terms you mentioned it, you hit the right mark, clarity of information, and on almost the consistency of information. From my perspective, for actually a lot of our clients, that meant the difference between getting something like the Queensland Adaptation COVID-19 grant or completely missing out. From your perspective, how important is that almost key, or the full disclosure of information?
I think clarity is so important, and getting the right information to clients is of utmost importance, and probably what I see as the biggest obligation for professionals. For example, our firm, we're very proactive, as you're aware,
Yes.
dealing with me for a couple of years now. We make sure that we understand clients. As I said, normally when clients come to us, we do a full audit to make sure we have all the documents from, company constitution, shareholders agreement, to leases, anything to do with the business we have. The more we understand, the more quicker and proactive we can move. For example, even before clients come to us, for let's say for JobKeeper or lease reductions, we were able to say, okay, this is what their business is, so that means they have option A, B, C in terms of lease reduction requests. And that's, I guess, the difference in terms of proactiveness, and probably what sets us apart from other firms is that ability to do that, and which I mandate all solicitors from the firm to sort of follow. So yeah, that's for us. And I think then really it comes down to is maintenance. That's very important than you're saying in terms of businesses in Australia.
I will also add to that, you mentioned some key concerns, key issues regarding clarity and the information quality and volume of it that's received from a client. Other concerns that clients have raised with me is mostly around cost. Whether in regards to us, will this cost them in terms of the phone call, the discussion regarding JobKeeper, the concerns whether or not, is Bentley's too expensive in regards to this phone call.
Yeah.
I will state this here and now. A friendly chat with your accountant, I can't speak for everybody, a friendly chat with your accountant shouldn't cost you too much, or in fact, it shouldn't cost you any. Bentley's does not charge for a quick discussion where you can pick up that phone and give us a ring in regards to any concerns that you have, because our motto is that there shouldn't be a nasty surprise. We've worked in the past together a lot.
Yes.
If the requirement is a quote, we are more than happy to provide a quote so both parties can progress without having that, I should call it, nasty surprise.
I think that's very important, and probably is the principle sort of MYG Legal as well, is that we do fix fees. Because most of our solicitors here are quite experienced, know exactly what they're doing, so they know if they talk to a client, which we do for no-cost basis for initial meetings, to understand the businesses. And once we do, we don't need to charge as great or on a 6-minute basis for it. And that's quite important for me because clients can calculate and project the expenses coming forward. The second thing for me is clarity and transparency in terms of what we do for them. And I think, and also we tailor our services to each client, which I know you do it as well.
We do. All clients, irrespective of their a small mum and dad business starting out, or a multinational entity expanding into Australia, or vice versa, a Australian enterprise expanding overseas. Every client is different. Every client needs their own approach, their own strategy, and no one size fits all for us.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think the one advice I want to give to my clients is don't be afraid to use big sort of mid-size firms like Bentley's, because sometimes a lot of clients think top tier accounting firms are going to be the best ones, but you can get the same quality but at the fraction of the price, and that's quite important for you to understand that. And that's why I encourage my clients to engage, for example, Bentley's or other accounting firms for the quality, not the the price.
Yes.
So that's good. I guess the key takeaway is always find a good lawyer go find a good accountant, because they're the key to the business success. Also to get access to information, and make sure that you're proactive about it, and make sure you have the records on hand. So for example, when small adaptation programs come in, you are actually first in to get served, and be able to do that. And that can only happen when you have the right records and you have an accountant who's able to provide it like that, which is quite important. So thank you.
No problems.
So next week we'll be talking about investing or doing business in Australia and what are key considerations. So I hope you stay tuned and subscribe to our channel. See you next week.